Hey everyone, Shawn Clement here at the Richmond Hill Golf Learning Center for Wisdom in Golf and Golf WRX. And today we're talking about ground forces. You see it, you hear it, you say, what's this about the force plate technology? How can it help me? All that good stuff. Well, I want you folks to understand that you are already gravity geniuses, okay? Let me demonstrate with a couple of easy tasks that really relate to your golf swing. And you'll understand how destructive certain tips like keep your head down or keep your head still or don't let your head go up and down, because many professionals on the tour, like Kenny Perry, who's been a staple on the tour for a very long time, his head's going up and down. You'll see a lot of them keep a steady head going back, but you'll see a lot of them where their heads are coming down on the downswing. And everybody's up in arms as to, ooh, be careful, watch out, and that could spell disaster for you. Well, let me put it all at rest. You're already built for this. If you walk down a busy street of New York City and you stand on a lamppost and you climb up on a lamppost and you see all the heads going up and down the street, all you're going to see are bobbing heads. It's our relationship with gravity. My center of gravity, which is the centermost point in my body where I have equal weight up and down, front to back, and side to side, if I want to take a step forward, I have to fall forward and catch myself. I'm certainly not going to reach forward and try to pull myself forward. That's crazy. So that's why you watch sprinters, they're already in a position where their center of gravity is lunging forward and they catch themselves faster. So let's look at the simple task. I just got back from Texas and we're going to play a little horseshoe. So if I'm just tossing a horseshoe in front of me here, well, I don't have to go very far. I don't have to use my arm. You'll notice, however, that I wouldn't stand to the side and be still. I wouldn't stand facing and be still. You'll stand slightly to the side because your shoulders are set a little forward on your rib cage. That's so that you can sew and cut and do all the things that you need to do to survive. This was 1,000 years ago. You'll notice if I'm trying to jump, my arms are going to spread away from my body going back, and they'll come closer in front of me coming through. So I'm going to have to stand to the side to get a really good toss going. But you notice how my body still has to get out of the way. Now, for a small toss like this, no problem. I can just let the weight of my arm toss the horseshoe. But if I need to toss it down my yard to the stake, now all of a sudden I'm going to have to open things up. And you'll notice if I need to go even further than that, right out of the gate, as soon as I have my students do something like that, all of a sudden they realize, oh yeah, I am using the ground and I'm pushing off the ground. You're not going to push harder with your arm. That would not be instinctive. So if you take, let's say, a nice training aid from the Home Depot, a nice 3-pound hammer right here. I got a 3- and 4-pound hammer. If I want to toss this around my yard, notice how I would see how I'm using the ground to toss the hammer? So my arm is always staying relaxed, and what pulls the hammer away from me are the G-forces that I generate by adding a little push off the ground. So if you look at, hey, my favorite tool right here, my ball on a string. So here's a great way to coordinate this. Get something on a string and twirl it. Notice how my hand is actually moving up and down. If I stop, well, there go the forces, and I've just canceled the energy. So I can use my arm or I can use my legs. So here we go. See how I'm coordinating with that? So my brain is an absolute gravity genius, and it knows exactly when to push to accelerate the energy. It also knows when to push to cancel it. Watch what happens. See how I can stop it or get it going at will. We're built for that. We're experts at this. And notice when my legs were going up and down, so was my head. So Be careful when you give the tip, keep your head still. So many of my students that keep their head still are dragging themselves forward in the backswing, and they throw themselves on their toes and they compromise their balance, and then they sap the energy right out of the leg system. It's like you're chopping your legs off, and you're preventing yourself from using that genius of gravity. In essence, you become a gravity moron. Don't want that. So, grab a hammer, toss a nice hammer down the yard. Now, if you were going to do that as a golf swing, hold the hammer, take your golf grip, make sure the hammer's pointed in a way that you're not going to take your knees out, and then use a nice little momentum here. Notice how my arms are staying nice and straight. Don't try to let it hinge, because as you let it unhinge, it's going to clunk like crazy and you don't want to hurt yourself. So keep the arms nicely extended, and look at how I'm using the energy from the ground to heave that hammer. It is such a natural thing for you to do. So, I knew you'd be wondering what this is all about. You definitely don't want to do this in public. You want a nice netted system like this, but it is a really fun sensation to have. Throwing a nice pickaxe. Boy, that feels good. So there's a couple of tools that we promote in Wisdom in Golf. One of them is called the Swing Caddy, and you'll see it on our Pro Shop page at wisdomingolf.com. It's got a built-in magnetic chamber here, so that when you do, let me just adjust this properly. So when you do, you can adjust it in a way that the magnet has more resistance or less resistance. When you give it some G-forces, notice you'll hear a click. So you want to hear that click more out there toward the target. So I'm going to crank this up to 90 miles an hour to start. Hear where that clicked? So notice how I'm using my legs to deliver the snap. I want this to get pulled away from me. So in order for it to get pulled away from me, notice how we're coordinating that. My brain's going to go get the ground, use the ground to push off as my arms are being pulled away from me. So it basically accelerates and increases the G-forces in the swing. That's how Rory does it. That's how Tiger did it, and hopefully he'll continue to do it in the future. You see so many pros on tour. Look at Dustin Johnson. Beautiful squat in the downswing. Bubba Watson. So the power comes from the ground up. Imagine if somebody were to take a harness and wrap it around your chest and raise your feet this far off the ground. If you've got no contact with the ground, you can't generate power. This is where we get it. So the important thing, and the thing to watch out for when you're working with force plate technology, we suck at body part positioning, and we are incapable of repeating exactly the same pattern. So don't get stuck into, make sure that I bring my weight to my heel, and then make sure I bring my weight to the front toe, and blah, blah, blah. Stay with your task. If I give you a club to throw all day, if I'm throwing this club out to my target, and I've got some nice targets to throw this club at, I'll become naturally better at the task. And you'll notice, if you go back to a couple of videos that we did for Golf WRX, one of them was throwing the club properly, and then showing you how the ball's going to get in the way of that throw. Then now that you get this awesome skill and you're using the ground to perform the skill, you're not trying to freeze any body parts to make sure you don't bob the head and all that stuff. And you just allow your system to do its thing to perform the task that you're giving it to perform. You'll get naturally better, and you'll actually be able to evolve in this game. And then next year we can just talk about, hey, what's the best strategy to put the ball over there? Okay? Let's get there, everybody. See you in the next one.